7 habits you must quit to hear God's voice when you want to rise to greatness, when you want to hear clarity, when you want direction from God. You've got to learn what to let go of. Champions don't just train harder, they eliminate the distractions. You can't rise if you're carrying the wrong habits. If you want God to guide you, you've got to quit the noise that blocks His voice. Quit doubting yourself. Doubt is the heaviest weight you can carry. It crushes your spirit before the game even begins. When you step into life doubting yourself, you've already lost half the battle. The enemy of greatness is not failure, it's hesitation. Every time you second guess, every time you hesitate, you rob yourself of the chance to grow. God didn't create you to live half alive. He gave you talent, skill, and vision. But doubt whispers, maybe not you, maybe you're not enough. And that's the lie that steals destiny. Champions know they'll make mistakes. They'll miss shots, they'll fail, but they never doubt the bigger picture. They know who they are and what they're made for. When you live in doubt, you silence the voice of God, because God speaks in faith, not in fear. He says, step forward, trust me. Doubt says, stay back, play it safe. Every time you choose doubt, you delay your breakthrough. You keep yourself stuck in the same place, wondering why nothing changes. Confidence doesn't mean you'll never fail. Confidence means you know failure can't break you. It can shape you, but it can't destroy you. The world will test you. People will criticize you. Circumstances will try to break you. But if you doubt yourself, you'll hand them the victory before the fight even begins. Faith and doubt can't live in the same heart. One has to go. If you want to hear God clearly, you've got to cut out the static of doubt. When God gives you a vision, He also gives you the strength to walk it out. Doubt tells you to wait until you feel ready. Faith says, go now. Every champion starts with a decision. I will not doubt who I am. And every time doubt knocks on the door, faith answers instead. The difference between average and greatness isn't talent, it's belief. Countless people have the skill. Few have the belief. That's why few rise to the top. Your future depends on what voice you believe. The voice of doubt says, sit down. The voice of God says, stand up. Which one are you listening to? Quit doubting yourself and you'll quit blocking God's voice. Doubt makes noise. Faith makes clarity. Doubt blinds, faith opens eyes. Every step of faith builds a new level of strength. Every moment you silence doubt, God's whisper becomes louder. Quit doubting yourself and you'll finally hear Him say, this is the way. Walk in it. Quit living in fear. Fear is the invisible chain that keeps people locked in the same place year after year. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If fear rules your mind, you'll never step into the arena. Fear whispers worst case scenarios. It tells you, don't try, don't risk it, don't dream too big. And if you listen, you'll never hear God's voice calling you forward. God doesn't speak through fear. He speaks through courage, through faith, through bold steps. Every time fear grows louder, it drowns out His whisper of direction. Fear is a liar. It exaggerates danger. It magnifies failure. It blinds you from opportunity. But faith sees possibility. Faith sees the win before the scoreboard shows it. You can't live fully and fear fully at the same time. One will dominate. Either your fear will paralyze you, or your faith will free you. The choice is yours. The truth is, fear doesn't vanish. It's always present. Champions don't wait for fear to leave. They walk straight through it because they know God's voice is on the other side. Every excuse, every hesitation, every missed opportunity has fear behind it. But every breakthrough, every victory, every success comes when you decide, I will not let fear rule me. Fear feeds on your imagination. It paints pictures of failure that don't even exist. But God gives you a different vision. Vision of strength, of triumph, of purpose. If you want to hear Him clearly, you've got to mute the voice of fear. That means taking action in the face of it. That means trusting when you can't see the outcome. Some people pray for clarity but live in fear every day. They want God's direction but won't take the step He already told them to take. Fear is the block. Obedience is the key. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision that fear won't be the driver. It might ride in the car, but it doesn't touch the wheel. Every time you push through fear, your faith muscles grow stronger. Every time you silence that inner trembling, God's voice becomes sharper in your life. Fear will always try to hold you back. But remember, God didn't design you to shrink. He designed you to rise. He didn't build you for timidity. He built you for boldness. Fear shouts, "What if you fail?" Faith replies, "What if I fly?" Fear says, "Stay safe." Faith says, "Step out." Which one are you listening to today? Quit living in fear, and you'll start living in clarity. Quit bowing to fear, and you'll hear God's whisper guiding your every move. Freedom begins where fear ends. Quit negative talk. Words carry power. They can lift you or they can bury you. Too many people lose the battle before it even starts because they speak defeat into their own lives. Every time you say, "I can't, I'm not good enough, I'll never make it," you're building walls around yourself. You're cutting off the very future God is trying to hand you. Champions don't allow negativity to dominate their vocabulary. They speak life, they declare strength, they speak victory, even in the face of struggle. Negative talk is a slow poison. You don't see its damage right away, but over time it destroys confidence, breaks focus, and silences your connection to God's voice. God never told you that you're worthless. He never said you can't. He never said you're not enough. Those lies come from your own self. Sabotage or the voices of people who don't see your destiny. If you want to hear God clearly, you've got to stop echoing negativity. His voice isn't one of despair. It's one of hope, of power, of purpose. Look at your words like seeds. If you plant negative seeds, you'll harvest doubt, fear, and failure. If you plant positive seeds, you'll reap courage, discipline, and growth. The mouth follows the heart. If your heart is filled with negativity, your words will reveal it. But if your heart is filled with faith, your words will project strength. When you say, "I can't," you silence God saying, "Yes, you can." When you say, "I'll never win," you drown out His promise that says, "I made you victorious." And negative talk is not just a habit, it's a choice. Every sentence you speak is either building your future or breaking it apart. Champions understand that what they say shapes how they play. They know confidence isn't just a feeling, it's a declaration. You speak it before you feel it. The atmosphere of your life is created by the words you release. If you want to walk in strength, speak strength. If you want clarity, speak truth. Quit negative talk and you'll notice a shift. Suddenly God's voice feels louder because the storm of your own words isn't drowning Him out anymore. Start telling yourself what God already said about you. You are chosen, you are strong, you are capable, you are equipped. Let that become your daily vocabulary. Every day you have two choices. Tear yourself down with your tongue or build yourself up with truth. Quit negative talk and you'll discover the power of hearing God's voice louder than ever. Quit holding grudges. Carrying a grudge is like carrying a backpack full of bricks. You can move, but you'll never move freely. You'll always feel the weight slowing you down, Anger feels powerful for a moment, but it robs you of clarity. It blinds your vision. It blocks God's voice. You can't hear peace when your heart is filled with poison. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's freedom. It's not about letting the other person off the hook. It's about unlocking yourself from the cage of bitterness. When you hold grudges, you keep replaying the past. But God is trying to call you into the future. You can't hear Him if you're stuck rewinding yesterday's pain. Champions don't waste energy on grudges. They know every ounce of energy wasted on resentment is energy stolen from growth, from training, from vision. A grudge is a distraction disguised as strength. You think you're holding power over someone else, but the truth is it's holding power over you. The more you feed bitterness, the more it eats away at your focus. The more you feed resentment, the more it clouds your spirit. God speaks through peace, not anger. If you want to hear Him clearly, you need to let go of the noise inside your chest. Forgiveness clears the frequency. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means you refuse to let the wound control your future. It means you choose freedom over chains. Some of the greatest victories come after forgiveness. Because when you release the grudge, you gain back the mental and emotional energy that resentment was draining from you. Champions know the game requires full focus. You can't compete with clarity if your mind is tangled up with grudges. The same goes for life. Bitterness whispers lies. You're strong if you hold on. You're weak if you let go. But the truth is, the strongest people are the ones who free themselves from it. God's whisper is gentle. But you won't hear it if your heart is roaring with anger. Silence the noise of grudges, and His voice will finally cut through. The longer you hold on to resentment, the longer you delay your growth. Every day you carry it. You're losing momentum toward your purpose. Quit holding grudges. Quit dragging chains into your future. Quit letting resentment define you. Release it, and you'll hear God's voice call you higher, louder, and clearer than ever before. Quit seeking approval from others. The quickest way to lose your purpose is to chase the applause of the crowd. The moment you start living for likes, claps, or compliments, you stop living for God's calling. Approval is a trap. It feels good in the moment, but it chains you to opinions, and opinions change every single day. One day they cheer, the next day they boo. If you live for their noise, you'll die in their silence. Champions don't need constant validation. They know who they are, they know their mission. They don't let critics or fans rewrite their identity. The truth is, people will never fully understand your grind, your vision, your faith, and that's okay. They weren't supposed to. The voice of God is enough. Seeking approval drains energy. Instead of focusing on your growth, you're scanning the room for reaction. Instead of listening to God, you're listening to opinions. The crowd can't define your destiny. Only God can. Their words are temporary. His word is eternal. Living for approval is exhausting because you'll never satisfy everyone. No matter how high you rise, someone will always have something negative to say. The greatest victories often happen in silence, away from the spotlight, when no one's clapping, but you still move forward anyway. If you want to hear God clearly, you've got to mute the applause and the criticism. Both can distract you. Both can pull you off course. Champions don't chase applause. They chase results. They don't chase popularity. They chase purpose. And that's why they stand out. Approval addiction kills creativity. It kills courage. It makes you play safe when you were built to play bold. God's approval is the only approval that matters. And the moment you recognize that, you'll stop begging for the world's approval and start walking in authority. Every time you look for someone else to validate you, you give away your power. But when you stand firm in who you are, no voice can shake you. Stop asking for permission to be great. Stop waiting for someone to clap before you move. The only green light you need already came from God. Quit seeking approval from others. Quit living for likes, claps, and validation. The only voice that matters is the one that created you, and his voice is enough. Quit comparing yourself. Comparison is one of the greatest thieves of destiny. It distracts you from your own path and blinds you from the voice of God guiding your steps. The moment you start looking at someone else's journey, you stop paying attention to your own, and you can't win a race when your eyes are on another lane. Champions know their only competition is the person in the mirror. Every day it's about being better than yesterday, not being better than someone else. When you compare, you either shrink with insecurity or swell with pride. Both are dangerous. Both distance you from God's voice of truth. God didn't create you as a copy. He made you an original. And the moment you embrace your uniqueness, you start unlocking your real potential. Comparison leads to jealousy, and jealousy kills focus. You can't build your dream while you're wishing you had someone else's. Every time you compare, you rob yourself of gratitude. And without gratitude, you'll never hear God's voice clearly, because you're too busy complaining about what you don't have. The truth is, you don't see the battles behind someone else's success. You only see the highlight reel, and comparing your struggles to their highlights is unfair to your own journey. Champions study others to learn, not to envy. They take notes, but they don't trade their identity. They know their lane and they own it. Comparison shrinks dreams. It makes you think too small or chase things that aren't even meant for you. But God's calling is tailored to your life, not theirs. You can't hear him if you're too busy echoing someone else's life. His direction is personal, designed specifically for your steps. The greatest victories come when you stop looking sideways and start looking upward and forward. That's where clarity comes from. Quit comparing yourself, and you'll finally see the beauty of your own path. You'll recognize that your timing, your process, your struggles, and your victories are exactly what shape you into greatness. The game isn't about being better than someone else. It's about being the fullest version of who God called you to be. That's the only scoreboard that matters. Stop measuring your life with someone else's ruler. Stop chasing shadows. Quit comparing yourself, and you'll hear God's voice reminding you, you are enough. You are chosen. You are exactly where I need you to be. Quit quitting. The easiest habit to form is quitting. The hardest habit to break is also quitting. Every time life gets tough, every time resistance shows up, the temptation to stop whispers louder. But champions don't quit. They might stumble, they might fall, they might bleed, but they refuse to stay down. That's the difference between average and greatness. Quitting silences progress. Every time you quit, you cut short the lesson. You stop the break through just before it arrives. God never told you it would be easy. He told you he'd be with you, and if he's with you, there's no reason to bow out halfway. Quitting is a habit. The more you do it, the more natural it feels, but the same is true for endurance. The more you push through, the stronger your spirit becomes. You'll never hear God's direction clearly if you keep walking away from the battles he called you to fight. His voice is found in perseverance, not surrender. Champions see quitting as betrayal, not just to themselves, but to their purpose, their potential, their calling. Every great story of success is filled with moments where quitting looked like the easy way out. But those who refuse to quit write history. Life will hit you. It will test you. It will make you question everything. But quitting is not an option if you want to hear God's voice, because His whisper often comes in the middle of the struggle, not before it. The enemy doesn't fear your starting. He fears your finishing. That's why resistance always feels strongest right before the breakthrough. Every time you think of quitting, remember why you started. Remember the vision, remember the fire. Let that memory fuel you past the pain. Quitting hands your destiny over to fear, to doubt, to weakness. But endurance takes it back and says, "This is mine." Champions endure because they know greatness is built on consistency. Not one day, not one week, but year after year of refusing to stop. When you quit, you silence the lesson God is trying to teach you. When you endure, you step into the clarity of His voice guiding your growth. Quit quitting. Quit breaking promises to yourself. Quit abandoning the process halfway. Keep going, keep pushing, keep fighting, and you'll hear God's voice pushing you across the finish line. When you strip it all down, life is about clarity. It's about hearing the voice that tells you where to step, how to rise, and when to fight. But you'll never hear it if you keep carrying the wrong habits: doubt, fear, negative words, grudges, approval addiction, comparison, quitting. Those 7 habits are the noise. They are the static. They are the distractions standing between you and God's whisper. Champions don't allow noise to dictate their destiny. They clear the clutter. They remove the obstacles. They tune their spirit to the frequency of faith, not fear. And when they do, the voice of God cuts through sharp, clear, and undeniable. This isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's about choosing every single day to silence the habits that break you and strengthen the habits that build you. You were not created to live stuck. You were not created to walk in circles. You were not created to be average. You were created to rise, to shine, to dominate your calling with purpose. So quit doubting yourself. Quit living in fear. Quit tearing yourself down with your words. Quit dragging yesterday's anger into tomorrow's promise. Quit begging for approval. Quit comparing yourself. Quit quitting. Because the moment you let those habits go, you create room for something greater. You create room for clarity. You create room for strength. You create room for the voice of God to speak louder than the noise of the world. And when you hear Him clearly, nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not critics, not obstacles, not even the toughest battles, because His voice will guide you through them all. The path to greatness isn't built on shortcuts. It's built on discipline. It's built on faith. It's built on the refusal to bow down to the habits that hold you back. And when you walk that path with consistency, with hunger, with focus, you will not only hear God's voice, you will walk in His power. So here's the ending, simple and clear. Quit the habits that silence Him, and you'll discover the strength to walk in everything He created you to be. The game is waiting. Your destiny is waiting, and God is speaking.